had bad dreams. You go to the school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? They took it on that one, they took it on this one. Hey, y'all. Share the stream. Share the stream for me, guys. I can't share it because I'm using my phone, my main phone, for the stream, so I cannot share it. So if you would do me a favor, take a moment and share the live. Share the live. We have an update, quick update in the case of the United States versus Courtney Pete Townsend, Dalen Jerome Michael Armstead, Jesse Adele Rath, and Darline H. Lee. Go ahead and share the stream real quick, y'all. And I'm not going to be on here long because I'm premiering a video at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That video is definitely one you're going to want to tune into. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's get into this update on the case. I have been monitoring Pacer regularly, to see any updates and additional charges, the indictment, all of that, because that is what we're waiting on next, folks. We will be waiting to see who takes a plea and who gets actually indicted and all that other legal steps that have to be taken in order for an individual to be processed through the judicial system. So, today I come to you with an update specifically regarding defendant Jesse Adele Rath. Her name is Rath. It's like bath, but with an R in front of it. Now, you guys see the document there on the screen? I'm going to go ahead and read it. All right. The name of the defendant is Jesse Adele Rath. Name of judicial officer, the Honorable Barbara Lynn Major, U.S. Magistrate Judge. Matter reference to the Honorable Barbara Lynn Major, U.S. Magistrate Judge. Date, conditions ordered, October 30th, 2024, before the Honorable Barbara Lynn Major, U.S. Magistrate Judge. Charged offenses, Title 21, Section United States Code Section 953, exportation of a controlled substance, and in parentheses they have felony. Conditions of release. The defendant must not violate federal, state, or local law during the period of release. The defendant must cooperate in the collection of a DNA sample as authorized by 42 United States Code 14135A. The defendant must appear in court as ordered and surrender as directed to serve any sentence. The defendant must not possess or attempt to possess a firearm, destructive device, or other dangerous weapon. The defendant must not use or possess a narcotic drug or other controlled substance without a lawful medical prescription. The defendant must not use or possess marijuana under any circumstances. The initial court appearance hold on, I just missed my part. I messed my part, y'all. Hold on.
The defendant must not use or possess under any circumstances marijuana. Okay. The defendant must report to United States Pretrial Services Office. Telephone number is listed on the day of the initial court appearance or within 24 hours of the defendant's release from custody, whichever is later. Throughout this case, the defendant must report as directed by the Pretrial Services Office and follow all directions as of the Pretrial Services Office. The defendant must advise the court or the Pretrial Services Office in writing of 1. The defendant's current residence, address, and phone number when first reporting to pretrial services, and 2. Any new contact information before making any change of residence or phone number. The defendant must read this pretrial release order and the advice of penalties and sanctions form, or have it read to the defendant in the defendant's native language. The defendant must acknowledge the defendant's understanding of all the pretrial release conditions and the penalties and sanctions for any violations by signing the advice of penalties and some sanctions form. Restrict travel to San Diego County, Imperial County, CDCA, LA, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, SLO, Santa Barbara, Ventura. Do not enter Mexico. The defendant must execute an appearance bond in the amount of $15,000 that is secured as set forth below. The court finds that an unsecured bond will not reasonably assure the defendant's appearance as required and or will endanger the safety of another person or the community. Security, the co-signatures of one financially responsible adult, related adult. Additionally, the additional the additional the additional conditions: actively seek or continue full-time employment or school or a combination of both. Reside with a family member, surety, or at a residence approved by pretrial services by the pretrial services office, including any contract facility. Surrender any valid passport to the pretrial services office and or not obtain other international travel document. Submit to a psychological slash psychiatric treatment at pretrial services discretion. Submit to drug testing no more than 4 times per month and or outpatient substance abuse therapy and counseling as directed by the pretrial services office. Testing may include urine testing, the wearing of a sweat patch, a remote alcohol testing system, and or any form of prohibited substance screening or testing. Pretrial services need not notify the court of test results attributed to residual elimination. All right, so we go through that page of this thing. That is page 1. Now I'm going to get into page 2. Okay? Let me make sure I'm here. All right, so we're here talking about one of the women that's been incarcerated alongside, well, was incarcerated at the same time as Solar and Musa, Jesse Adele Rath. Now, Jesse was released from federal custody and placed into a treatment facility. Her attorney asked for that to happen, and that's exactly what they did. Jessie is also one of the women that's not listed as being in custody or ever being arrested by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Like, she's not in their system, which only leads me to believe that she has turned government witness, right? So I shared her conditions with you guys because the United States has asked for a modification regarding her conditions. Now let's get into that. Let me make sure I'm doing good on time. How y'all doing? While we here, please hit the like button for me. All right, we doing real good on time. It's only 1:28. I got to get out of here by 2, guys, because I'm premiering something at 2. It's a video featuring Hadu, aka Zion. You guys are definitely going to want to see it. So I want to make sure I'm not competing with my live streams. All right, so modification. On November 7th, 2024, the court modified pre-trial conditions of release to include that the defendant be released to a residential rehabilitation program at the discretion of pretrial services. Date released on bond was November 8th, 2024. Next court hearing for Jesse Adele Rath is November 26th, 2024 at 9 a.m. for her arraignment hearing. Okay? Now, let's see. All right. The pretrial services officer believes that the defendant has violated the following conditions of pretrial release. Conditions: the defendant be released to a residential rehabilitation program at pretrial services discretion. The allegations: on November 16th, 2024, the defendant left the residential treatment program crash without permission from pretrial services. Grounds for revocation: on November 7th, 2024, the court modified the pretrial release order to include that the defendant be released to a residential rehabilitation program at the discretion of pretrial services. On November 8th, upon the defendant's release from custody, pretrial services conducted a post release intake interview and reviewed all conditions of release and possible consequences to noncompliance. The defendant acknowledged understanding of her conditions of release, including this modified order, and agreed to enter residential treatment at Crash as directed by pretrial services. Pretrial services received confirmation from Crash. She entered treatment as directed on November 8th, 2024. On November 16th, 2024, the undersigned received a voice message late in the evening from Crash indicating the defendant left the program earlier that same evening. Staff at Crash further stated that they tried to do an intervention and the defendant stormed off from the program. On November 18th, 2024, the undersigned received a voice message from the defendant indicating she left Crash and was going to check herself into another program on this same day. The undersigned contacted the defendant and discussed her leaving the program. The defendant reported there was there was a big argument with the ladies in the program and she walked out. She indicated she attempted to return to the program and the program would not allow her to come back. She added that she then called her father, Shorty, that's I guess her dad, Jessica's dad bonded her out, and he transported her to his residence in Palm Desert. The undersigned inquired what plans she had, and she indicated she was looking into programs. The undersigned admonished her for leaving the program without permission and informed the defendant that this noncompliance would be reported to the court. The undersigned further directed the defendant to look for alternative programs to enter into as soon as possible. Later, this same date, November 18th, 2024, the undersigned spoke with the defendant's father slash shorty, Francis Rath, and defense counsel Hector Tamayo in a three-way call to address this noncompliance. Mr. Rath indicated they found another program called Phoenix Rising and the defendant could be admitted that evening. The undersigned spoke with the defendant and reiterated the importance of her being admitted as soon as possible into another program. The defendant expressed some resistance, indicating she wanted to say bye to some people. Mr. Tamayo also expressed the importance of her being admitted into another program as soon as possible, and the defendant agreed to enter the residential treatment program immediately as directed. On November 19, 2024, the undersigned confirmed with the treatment program Phoenix Rising Recovery in La Quinta, California, that the defendant had entered their program on November 18th and they could transport her to her next court hearing on November 26, 2024. A criminal a criminal computerized records check conducted on this date revealed no new information, so they ran her to make sure she didn't get into any other trouble. Supervision adjustment. The defendant's adjustment to supervision is assessed as poor. The defendant voluntarily discharged from residential treatment without the permission from pretrial services. To her credit, she enrolled at another program in La Quinta, California within a few days of leaving Crash. Pretrial services has some concerns the defendant is unable or or unwilling to comply with the court's conditions of release as ordered. Recommendation slash justification. At this time, pretrial services respectfully recommends the defendant be ordered to appear before the court for an order to show cause hearing on November 26th at 9:30 a.m. and the defendant to show cause why her bond should not be revoked. Respectfully submitted, Zena Azure, Chief U.S. Pretrial Services Officer. So, long story short, Jesse Adele Roth has already violated the terms of her release by leaving the rehabilitation program that she was placed in by pretrial services because of some type of outburst or argument, she says. So I'm going to be providing updates on this entire case. Okay? We don't know who Jessie Adele Rath is. I have somewhat of an idea of who she is by way of her social media, but I'll be updating you guys on every portion of this case, regardless if it has to do with Solar and Musa specifically. And the reason why I had to hop up here on Beyonce's internet and update y'all on Jessie is because she is one individual. If you go to the Bureau of Prisons website and you try to find an inmate and you type in her name, it will not show her as ever being arrested. You understand what I'm saying? So I believe she's got a sweetheart deal already. I mean, hey, they released her to rehab. She already has a sweetheart deal, really. You know what I'm saying? So, guys, let me get up out of here. Like I said, I got something coming up at 2. Y'all be sure to tune in. Just wanted to give you guys an update on the United States versus Courtney P. Townsend, Dalen, Jerome Michael Armstead, Jesse Adele Rath, Darlene H. Lee. Wanted to give you an update on their cases. Um, just a side note, Solar and Musa and Darline are still incarcerated. They have not yet posted bond. I checked this morning. Additionally, Leslie, the other chick that was caught up, gripped up with Hadu, because now y'all know it's 6 of them. Y'all know it's 6 of them. But the girl that was gripped up with Hadu, she's also not listed in the system. So I'm watching and monitoring that case too, because I want to see like what type of deal Jesse and Leslie get versus the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? I want to see what type of deal they receive at in the aftermath. So, guys, thank you for joining me. Please be sure to hit that like button, and I'll see you